Hello, my name is Nicholas Bender, and today I want to talk to you about nutrition specifically for older adults. And I thought this was relevant for today's certain climate where coronavirus is affecting all of us. It also gave me the time to be productive while we're self-isolating. So I'm hoping specifically though for older adults, because coronavirus is affecting your population the most, to give you a rundown on some general recommendations on a healthy diet, what that is, defining that, and then also just recommending you those things that simple takeaway messages that you're hopefully able to walk away from and start including in your daily life. But when it comes to eating healthy, it's as simple as this. I like to say, eat those foods that your great-grandparents would at least recognize, or the foods that don't have a nutritional label. Some people will say it's the single ingredient foods, such as your fresh foods. They don't have it. It's a single ingredient. You don't need to have a nutritional label to know spinach is spinach. So those are some of the just quick general recommendations, or of course the foods that don't market themselves on television. So what's your problem then, right? So what is your problem? Well, how about coronavirus? Okay, now we don't know if we can even get out of the house to go get that food. Of course, there's access just in general, regardless of being quarantined or not. Our food environment, the environment that we live in, what's available to us, our physical ability to cook and stand and actually prepare the food, to access that food. And yeah, we want good quality taste and enjoyment. Some of us may not enjoy the taste of Brussels sprouts or broccoli. Interestingly, there's some genetic potential for why you may or may not enjoy Brussels sprouts, but yeah, there's loads of issues on why you may not be eating healthy. And another one is that we don't even know what healthy food is. To this day, nutritionists are struggling with each other on, is meat good for you or is meat bad for you? Is saturated fat good or bad? And what about various leafy greens and vegetables? And that seems to be the one thing that nutritionists are mostly in agreement with, is that vegetables are healthy. So that's another one of your problems. And then there's aging, okay? The aging process, where your tastes and your smell is reduced, and then you want sweeter and more savory foods and maybe saltier foods. So that's another issue that's against you. Your digestion and your digestive system is not as effective as you get older, so your ability to metabolize something like protein in chicken, you may be eating the right amount of protein, but you may not be digesting all of that protein, so that you may be deficient. Other nutrient deficiencies may then be prevalent in older adults. Vitamin deficiencies, as we'll see, become more prevalent as we get older. And that is a theory, just specifically speculation on my part, on why older people may be getting a worse case of this disease, maybe more prevalent. Again, no idea what that research really is and when that comes out, but my theory is that the more nutrient deficient individuals are going to be more susceptible to getting the disease. They may have a more virulent strain or a more difficult time with their symptoms with coronavirus. And so, I'm specifically using it to my advantage to kind of scare you into eating healthier foods at this time, because I believe it is much more important now more than ever to eat healthy, nutrient-dense foods. And just one more analogy to kind of help maybe scare you in the right direction is I just want to explain the aging process in just a quick analogy. So I want you to imagine a treadmill, a giant treadmill in the sky, where you are a car on that treadmill. Okay, you're picturing that? Something like this. And it turns out it exists. All right, simple Google image of giant treadmill car turned out to be a thing. Now, the couple key rules of this treadmill, because we're keeping going with this analogy, is over here, this green line is optimal health. All right, and over here we have disease, the red line towards the end of the treadmill. You can't fall off the front of the treadmill, but we can fall off the back of the treadmill, and we don't want to do that. We want to try to get as close to the front of the treadmill as possible and as far away from disease as we can. So let's say type 2 diabetes is this disease. Some things that we can do to get away from type 2 diabetes is to move, to feed our car with the top quality fuel or nutrition as possible to help that car get to the front of the treadmill. We can sleep the right amount. Specifically with coronavirus, it's very important to sleep to boost your immune system. So sleeping for older adults 7 hours or more is the recommendation by the National Sleep Foundation. Great. That's going to get us closer to the front of the treadmill. And then stress, so reducing stress, reducing, really what we want to socialize. And that's another issue when it comes to coronavirus, is we can't socialize. And there's so much research out there that says we must socialize. That is such a fundamental key thing to overall health. We want to reduce loneliness. So again, figuring out ways to socialize in this time is so critical to getting that car as close to optimal health as we can. Now, around age 30, if I haven't scared you enough, around age 30, this happens. And the treadmill then inclines, making it harder for us to stay towards that front of the treadmill at optimal health. Now, you may not feel this in your 30s, as certain hormones like testosterone start to decline in your 30s for men. Just one example. You may not feel this until age maybe 40, 50, depends on the person, 70, who knows. And then you'll, all of a sudden, it's like 1 year goes by and you feel so much weaker, or maybe just a month goes by and you've gained weight or something has happened, and you feel this, okay? And all of these issues that we already talked about are now coming into fruition, and you're realizing aging is very much happening to me right now. So basically we want to get back to this, and we do that through these principles, all right? And that is relax, eat, move, sleep, and socialize. And then the kind of bonus one is finding purpose. And that is, there's so many other studies on finding purpose. Today, all we're going to be talking about is eat, but just keep that in mind, that this analogy and the aging process and fighting and staying healthy and fighting this incline and fighting this treadmill analogy, it's very much holistic, and it revolves around those 5 pillars, plus purpose. Okay, so when it comes to eating, what does the NHS here in the UK recommend that you eat as an older adult? Well, it recommends this, the Eat Well Guide. And as you can see, you've got a lot of carbohydrates over here. On this side, you've got lots of vegetables. This is a 2016 recommendation. Over here, though, we have more nutrients per calorie. I'm not sure if you can see that, but this side of the Eat Well Guide, more nutrients per calorie. And this is going to be the key takeaway message. Over here, we've got less nutrients per calorie, okay? And that is the definition of nutrient-dense foods. So the message, the key takeaway here for this whole presentation is just eat more nutrient-dense foods. Meat, vegetables, certain milk, yogurts are really good, kefir, packed full of probiotics, the nutrients of protein, fiber, so much fiber here in the vegetables. We'll talk about fiber with the carbohydrates in a bit. Beans, lentils, those things that give you calories, sure, but they give you so many nutrients on top of those calories. These are nutrient-dense foods. Salmon, broccoli, sweet potatoes, gherkins, whole chicken in a soup. More soups with loads of different vegetables in it. So you're getting all those different nutrients to help support your health, but also support your immune system. All right, eggs is a great way. Carrots and lentils, shrimp. I love to have a salad, and you can just put tons of different nutrients and different vegetables in those salads. Smoothies is another great way to kind of hide nutrients. This is my smoothie here. I've hid a bit of spinach there in the top of that smoothie. All right, right. So, you could be telling yourself like, look, that all looks great, but you go back to your barriers, right? So the first thing you're thinking maybe is cost or access, or Nick, have you been to Sainsbury's lately? All of the fresh veg is sold out. And that's all fine. And specifically with cost, I will have to just mention, like, I can understand in these times where you may not have the ability to purchase some of those healthy foods. Health is wealth, okay? We want to make sure that we stay healthy to avoid this COVID-19, or so my theory exists. All right, so the healthier that we can be, the closer to optimal health that we can be. My theory is that the less severe COVID-19 will be on our bodies, the less likely we are to die, the less likely we are to potentially even get the disease or feel like we've gotten the disease. But when it comes to cost, it's very much about paying the farmer now or the pharmacist later, and it's kind of up to you. So I do think when it comes to that pushback that I get on cost, it's very much where your priorities are. If you're able to order a takeaway and able to purchase at a restaurant, you're able to purchase the right foods and just rearranging your priorities. Even sometimes organic, I have to kind of challenge that a bit. Although I will, concede as well. Like it's a completely different, complicated argument, but this still reigns true for probably the majority of us that have the money to watch this video on probably a smartphone. All right, so let's go back to the Eat Well guide. I'll try to keep your attention here because there's a lot, and that was like a scientific slide. But in general, for older people, you need less calories, all right? And that's up here. Basically, 2,000 calories is what the NHS recommends that you're eating per day, whether you're a male or female. And that starts, as you get older, you're needing less and less calories. That recommendation's basically on the idea that you're probably less likely to be moving, and so you're less active, and therefore you need less calories. So if we're indoors, we probably need less and less calories. But that doesn't mean that we need less and less nutrients, even though we're not active. So I want you to make that distinction between a calorie and nutrients. Things like fiber, things like, which we cover here. So fiber and protein. We still need protein, even though we're not as active. We still need to trying to eat fish or omega-3. If you have the omega-3 supplements and fish oil, that's a great way to supplement at a time like this where that fish may not be available. But the big issue that I have with the Eat Well guide is when we go back to that, 55% of your diet is apparently supposed to be in carbohydrates. But 55% of your diet then doesn't have a whole lot of nutrients to go with it. And what they're trying to say, and why that recommendation is there, is because the fiber that is in your breads and your pastas and your rices will then help you reduce chronic disease, and that's true. Fiber definitely helps, but vegetables can be so much more fibrous than bread. So to prove that point, I'm putting 100 grams of bread on a scale and 100 grams of oatmeal on a scale, and this is going to be our top quality oatmeal, whole grain, 100% whole grain bread. And these are our fiber contents. So 6 grams of fiber, again, our daily recommendation is 30 grams of fiber. So if you're eating bread, you're gonna have to eat a lot of bread to get 30 grams of fiber. You're gonna have to eat a lot of oatmeal, and that comes with a lot of calories. So you have to stay within your 2,000 calories or less, especially if we're all isolated now. Both of these choices are not the worst, but there are better options. And if we're going to eat things like this and kind of steal a lot of calories for not a whole lot of nutrients, then we need to be making sure that we're adding nutrient-dense foods onto those into those meals. So in comparison, though, we've got 100 grams of broccoli, and this is not giant stalks of broccoli. It's just to scale with the raspberries, and 100 grams of raspberries. Much more manageable to eat both of these than our previous slide here. That's a lot of bread, a lot of oatmeal, not many broccoli. It's like a few stalks of broccoli, a handful of raspberries. 4 grams of fiber, 35 calories in broccoli. I know you've been beaten over the head multiple times by like, eat broccoli, eat vegetables, but like, this is one of those reasons. Because we know how good fiber is for you, it's so much more nutrient dense. It's so much more dense in general in broccoli. Raspberries, nearly 7 grams for 27 calories. Again, I want you to make those distinctions between these numbers and these numbers. And remember, this, let's say you have white bread. Let's say you have, instant oatmeal. You basically can kiss that fiber goodbye, okay? You can probably raise the calories as well. It's going to be much more sugary, and additives are going to be added to that. So if you're not even eating that top quality of bread or top quality of oatmeal, very much rethink your process in a time like today. Now, when it comes to nutrients and minerals and vitamins, which are, those nutrients. I say the word nutrient as a very broad term. I'm talking protein, I'm talking fiber, vitamins, minerals, the phytochemicals, antioxidants. Those things that mainly are found in vegetables. Breads, pastas, rice, oatmeal, they have fiber. We've covered that. They have some B vitamins. They have supplemental vitamin D in them. They have often supplemental folate in them. Like in the US, they have supplemental folate or folic acid because they don't have many nutrients in them, okay? It's basically you're getting fiber. Vegetables is different. Vegetables, you get the fiber and you get a bunch of different nutrients. And ideally, you have had a blood test and you know that, your calcium levels are a little low, or you've got, just the amount of B12, but you probably don't know that. And so what we can do is we can generalize by taking a survey by the National Diet and Nutrition Survey that polled all UK adults, found specific deficiencies in various parts of the population. So one specific nutrient that's of concern is magnesium. So 16% of males aged 19 to 64 are deficient, 18% of over 65, and so on. Potassium is another nutrient of concern. You can see that the numbers are higher there in general, and then the nutrient that is of most concern that most UK adults are actually deficient in, specifically women, is selenium. And selenium is going to be important when it comes to immunity. There is a few bits of research coming out on the potential of selenium and its link with coronavirus. But again, it's very much speculation based on the flu and cold and Ebola and Zika and those other types of viruses that are similar to the SARS-CoV-2 or coronavirus. So, what foods are high in magnesium? Well, my favorite food is dark chocolate. I know that 85% of 85% or greater is best when it comes to chocolate for its nutrient density. I know it's tough. What I do is I'll hide dark chocolate in yogurt, so it just kind of adds a little bit of tartness, but it's still palatable, it's still tasty. So that could be a nice addition to your diet. I know that might sound odd, but I'm telling you, eat dark chocolate, eat chocolate, but specifically dark chocolate. Another one is Swiss chard that has magnesium. Here we also have potassium, 2 for 1. Potassium bomb, absolutely, in a dish. So you could do a sautéed kale. You could have a sweet potato mash. You can add butter to that. You can put some cinnamon on top of it. You've got a great dish packed full of potassium that can reduce blood pressure. Again, another thing that we want to reduce, and that may increase susceptibility and severity of coronavirus. So again, we want to try to get as healthy as possible. Let's eat more potassium to lower our blood pressure. Salmon's got another twofer: calcium, potassium and selenium now in salmon. You also got protein. You got so many other nutrients in all these foods, but specifically salmon is just packed. You get your omega-3s. It's endless. Selenium, the absolute #1 food for selenium, and something that I'm supplementing daily with in the form of 1 to 2 Brazil nuts a day, is selenium. Selenium is fantastic, specifically with Brazil nuts. And then cottage cheese. Cottage cheese is also high in selenium, and it gives you a bit of calcium. All right. So some nutrient, like these are specific vitamins. Really, in this slide, we covered mostly minerals, and now I wanted to cover vitamins, and then give you a couple of recommendations in terms of supplements. I always prefer individuals to eat their supplements. Just like I've done here, eat your supplements, eat your vitamins, eat your minerals. But sometimes it just can become difficult. For example, B1 is going to be high in beans, niacin and B6. You have avocados that are kind of a twofer on those B vitamins. B12 is going to be high in meats mainly. And instead of making sure that you're getting all of your various B vitamins, you can also complement your diet with a B complex, which is going to have multiple B vitamins in it. Another nutrient or another vitamin specifically in a supplemental form is vitamin D. Now, vitamin D, we could probably do a whole video on vitamin D and its impact or its potential impact when it comes to coronavirus, but it is one that is quite significant because of its similarities with the flu and the cold. So vitamin D has been shown to basically reduce your likelihood of getting the flu, which is a virus, which is a coronavirus. There's a theory as well that vitamin D3 and its deficiencies in the winter months is what leads to the flu season being in the winter. The government recommends you to supplement with 400 IUs daily of vitamin D3. So between 400 IUs or international units up to 4,000 international units is kind of the recommendation, but that's tough, and it's hard because these things aren't really that well regulated. So it is very much up to you. I'm supplementing at the moment with 4,000. That's because it's in the winter. I haven't been supplementing recently all that consistently. At some point I may drop down to 2,000. Ideally, you get a vitamin D test by your doctor that then he or she tells you what your vitamin D levels are. If you don't have that, 400 IUs, I believe it's the Finnish government that recommends 800 IUs, so a little bit more aggressive, but anywhere between 400 and 4,000. It's important to look for a supplement that comes with vitamin D3 and vitamin K2. Vitamin D3 is important when it comes to bone health, and that is specific for older adults who yes, coronavirus is on our mind at the moment, but osteoporosis is still there. It's still, that aging process is still taking place. So vitamin D helps funnel calcium, and it takes it to the right place. It helps deposit calcium basically in the bones. And vitamin K2 is also very important as a vitamin to help shuttle that calcium into the right places in the body. And we don't want calcium to be shuttled into our arteries, for example, where our arteries harden. So we want to have the vitamin D3, we want to have the vitamin K2, and if you noticed on the previous slide, most older adults in the UK are getting enough calcium in their diet. So this idea of supplementing with calcium has had a lot of pushback in the last couple years. Some research has come out to show that calcium isn't all that effective, specifically on its own. and that in general you're getting enough calcium in your diet, and I'd much rather you get your calcium in your diet rather than supplementing with calcium. So a couple supplemental options for you to look into. And okay, so we've kind of talked a bit on this concept of nutrient density, and I want to put that idea to the test. So we are going to play a game, and it is called Diet Wars, Preventing Diabetes Edition. All right, so we're going to be looking at which diets can reduce or prevent diabetes. Coming in the first corner, hailing from the UK, it's the low-fat diet. And coming in from Italy, the Mediterranean diet. Now, a study by Sala Salvato et al. 2011 found that it was a 4-year follow-up, found that the Mediterranean diet, those folks that were in the Mediterranean diet, were much less likely to develop diabetes. They had greater triglyceride levels, so better HDL to LDL ratio, and they were much less likely to develop cardiovascular disease. So great, Mediterranean diet, moving on to the second round, where it's going to face a lower carb version of itself. A study by El Hahiani, 2010, found that the low carb diet of the Mediterranean style, which basically it's the same, you're just cutting out the bread, the pasta. It was a 12-month randomized control trial, found that those individuals following the low carb diet, again, much more likely or much less likely to have diabetic related complications. When it comes to cardiovascular disease, they had better triglyceride levels, and their overall blood sugar was reduced much greater than the standard Mediterranean diet. Now, if we look at this a bit closer, what we see is nutrient-dense foods, nutrient-dense foods, nutrient-dense foods, and a little bit of wine. Okay, again, a nutrient-dense drink. Okay, it's got polyphenols, it's got various flavonoids that are in wine, can help with, there's a whole different other topic on some of the benefits of drinking moderately. Maybe the social aspects that come with drinking as well. So this is the kind of diet in general. It's a diet that is full of nutrient-dense foods. So whether you're vegan, you're carnivore, whatever, this concept of eating nutrient-dense foods is important, and maybe why you see vegan diets being really good for you, because they have more nutrients per calorie in general than the standard diet. Same thing with the carnivore diet. Yes, there are people out there that just eat meat. Meat is very nutrient dense, so they're still sort of following this recommendation of eating nutrient dense foods. So I'm not by any means prescribing any one diet. I'm just saying, look at the food that is on your plate. How many nutrients are you actually going to be eating to compare to how many calories you're going to be eating, and making your decisions based on that rather than really anything else. Don't be thinking, oh, I need to eat this because it's a low calorie drink. Well, how many nutrients are in that drink? Is it a low calorie drink because it's it doesn't, or is it something like a soda, which has lots of calories, 0 nutrients? The only nutrient you're getting is the energy that you're getting from the calories. It's minimal. So yeah, there's your low carbohydrate Mediterranean style diet. Is a great diet to follow. All right, so back to our Eat Well guide. Really, the conclusion is eat more nutrients per calorie, and that is on this side in general of your Eat Well guide. It doesn't mean you can't eat bread and eat pasta, but if you're going to do that, understand that you're not getting many nutrients per calorie. Choose whole grains if you're going to eat breads and pastas and rice, because they're going to be more nutrient dense. Now, beautifully, the Canadian government has recently, in 2019, updated their government recommendations for what people should eat. It also comes, another reason I really like this guide and why I put this up here is that it helps with portion control. So they put real food on their plate, real in the carbohydrate section, all whole grain foods. They've put half of the plate with vegetables and fruits, nutrient-dense foods, and then, you know, a quarter of the plate there, beans and top quality proteins that have loads of nutrients in them, eggs, salmon, beef, chicken, those things that are all nutrient dense. So they're very much following, I guess, my advice when it comes to eat nutrient dense foods. And however you want to kind of interpret that, it's up to you. And that can be anywhere from vegan to vegetarian to carnivore to ketogenic to something like this, you know, this diet to a lower carb Mediterranean diet. All right, so back to our analogy. If we're eating nutrient dense foods, our car is just going to be fueled a little bit more effectively. So the top quality fuel we want to put into that car, especially at a time like today, in a time like now where we're, you know, plagued with this pandemic. But it is only one aspect of health. So please keep that in mind. Let's say your diet is not going well, and I'll tell you, I'll be honest with you, my diet isn't going all that well. I'm finding the isolation very difficult. I'm drinking too much. I'm grazing constantly. Granted, they're on nuts and on dark chocolate because I have no junk food in the house, so I'm eating, but I'm eating constantly, which isn't all that great. And so I can imagine the motivation of all of us is going to drop. So if I have been fear-mongering a bit, it's really just to kick you into gear, to motivate you to be eating healthy at a time like now, rather than kind of feeling sorry for yourself. I think we're all feeling a bit sorry for ourselves, and then we are leaning on food to help comfort us. I'm afraid that when we are eating those types of foods, especially crisps or any foods that are just not nutrient dense, they're not doing anything for us, and they may make us less healthy. They may affect our immune system and may make us more susceptible to getting coronavirus. If you are nutrient deficient, which older adults are more likely to be, that they may be getting it more harsher, that coronavirus may be affecting them greater because of things like a deficiency in selenium. I do want to signpost you to one website. I've got to say, this website is fantastic. If you have time on your hands, check out secondnature.io. It's come out within the last 3 weeks. It's rebranded itself, but it's got so many good guides on salt, for example, like the truth about salt or cholesterol even. And what's amazing is that it's partnered with the NHS. This is actually a diabetes prevention program that you can sign up for. I'm also not above signposting you to myself, which is our Facebook page here at Walk and Talk for Your Life, Walthamstow. It's the group exercise and health discussion course that I run here in London. We did a course actually recently online, and it worked out well enough for me to say that we'll be recruiting for our next 10-week course. So if you're at home and you're older and you want to join a virtual exercise group, we will go through a 10-week course where we'll have 10 different discussions all about either nutrition or exercise or sleep or stress. Very similar to the one today, but it's much less me talking and more you talking. You can email me at wtlwalthamstow@gmail.com. And if you want to sign up for that course, just send me a message or comment on this video. Yeah, if you want to subscribe, you can go ahead and do that. I suppose on YouTube I may be posting a few more videos. We'll see how long this coronavirus lasts. I may get bored and want to post other videos. So let me know if you want some more videos in the comments below. Thanks so much.